I'm Natalie Daniels, and I'm here with Michael Labor, who is a filmmaker that screened with us at Manchester Lifter Film Festival with his film Buddy Goes to Nollywood. Michael, why don't you introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about your background and how you got up to this point in your career?
Sure, thanks, Natalie. So I studied biology at university, and so it wasn't until I was about 22 that I realised I wanted to make documentaries.
Okay.
And then I was, very much affected by what was going on politically at the time. So 2001, obviously, it was 9/11. And then our response to it was invading Iraq in 2003. And I was quite horrified by that. And that's really what spurred me to sort of go into filmmaking. It was a passion for documentary that led me into do what I do. So at the time, I just bought a camera, went off to America, and made a film about what American people thought was behind 9/11.
Mm-hmm.
That using that got me a job in production, and I've sort of worked my way up ever since, just sort of carving out a niche in making content for ad agencies.
So is it ad agency and documentary film styles that you're more interested in, or have you also explored narratives?
Yes, I think, I guess you've got to kind of realize what influences you as a filmmaker to then sort of use that to your advantage.
Mm-hmm.
And so when I moved to London, I had to basically, to make a living, I had to work in commercials as a runner. So it was commercials that I was exposed to most in the beginning of my career. So that was an influence. It was the sort of shorter form documentary stuff.
Yeah,
so that's
okay.
what I ended up doing as a job. But documentary was always on my radar, and basically what I would do was do commercial jobs and save up enough money to kind of go off and shoot my own films. And that's what I've been doing for the last 15 years.
You kind of talked about your inspirations and that you should kind of take those. Is there any filmmakers or films, documentary films, that really did inspire you and want you to pursue this even more?
Yeah, I mean, definitely in the first place, because it was a big political kind of film that I wanted, not that I wanted to make necessarily, but it was about a big political subject. And at the time, Michael Moore obviously was making Fahrenheit 9/11 and Bowling for Columbine. And so he was, that sort of style, polemical, kind of big political documentary was quite influential. But I would say that, I don't think that's necessarily the right path to go down now. I don't think it's a very effective way of sort of changing people's minds, because it sort of polarizes people. But I think certainly at the time, that was what influenced me, I guess. Lots of other influences as well. I mean, Errol Morris is a fantastic documentary filmmaker. Nick Broomfield as well. Yeah. So that kind of style.
Great. So it's interesting you went down the political route to then make Buddy Goes to Nollywood. So for the members on our network who don't know what Buddy Goes to Nollywood is, can you tell me a little bit about Buddy Goes to Nollywood and how that documentary came about?
Yeah, sure. So Buddy Goes to Nollywood is really an exploration of the Nigerian movie industry, but also of the protagonist Buddy, whose life we learn a lot about. So it's a lot about the character of Buddy, who's an entertainer and a not so successful entertainer and actor, who we learn about his motivations for wanting to make people laugh. And I think it's quite a sort of touching film about basically an out-of-work actor trying to make it in the Nollywood movie industry.
Okay. Cool.
So the second part of the question is, why did I make that? Well, two reasons for that answer are, firstly, that when I learned about Nollywood, I was really surprised that it existed. It's one of the top 3 biggest movies.
I think it's number 2, isn't it?
Yeah, it depends which metric you look at, whether it's films or the actual grossing, what it grosses. But basically, it's a massive industry. And when I came back here after learning about it, no one had heard about it, and it was like, how can no one know about this enormous industry? And so that was the first sort of reason why I thought, hang on, maybe there's a film idea here. And the second reason was that I had, as part of my career making videos, I'd worked with quite a few charities and filmed in Africa quite a bit. So I'd worked for Save the Children, making, a film in Sierra Leone, and for CAFOD, making films in South Sudan and the Congo and stuff like that. And incredibly enriching work. But it's part of a body of work coming out of Africa, which is all about poverty and how can we help them. And,
raising awareness.
Yeah, and I just thought, I thought that Nollywood is something to celebrate. So something a bit more glitzy and glamorous, that we can actually tell a much more positive story coming out of Africa. So that's really the two reasons why I was interested in making a film. And obviously Buddy having the desire to go out there and sort of see how far he could get in the industry was the sort of the last link in the chain that sort of brought the film together. So I really wanted to do it, and it came together very quickly, and I just thought, let's just go and do this.
Yeah, cool. So don't know how to word this. I was going to go into talking more about Buddy Goes to Nollywood, but I remember we need to focus more on you as a filmmaker. Okay. So what are the biggest problems or walls that you've faced, obstacles that you've had to overcome during filming?
During the actual filming?
During the filming, or you as a filmmaker trying to make films?
Yeah. Oh, okay. Yeah. I think definitely the biggest barrier is trying to make films, trying to get them financed and stuff like that. I've always worked to self-finance. So, you know, let's say back in 2008, I got a job as a camera assistant. It was like 28 days, but you know, £150 a day or whatever. And I was like, that is enough money for me to go make a film. So that's what I did. I didn't kind of wait to, you know, try and get funding to go off and make a film. That's just kind of what I did, which I think that's good and bad. I think largely that's the wrong way to do it, but it's just the way I knew is what drove me. And also I didn't know how to raise money for films. And maybe I would have never made any films had I just waited for funding, but it's not an ideal way to go, because I think funding helps you narrow your ideas. If you apply for funding, you've got to be very, very specific and very clear as to what kind of film you want to make and what you want to do with the film afterwards. Whereas if you're self-financing, you just go off and shoot it because that's what you want to do, and you make the film and you don't know what to do with it afterwards. So I think there's good and bad in there. But I think
that was a nice way to put the pros and cons. Definitely, seeing as self-funding, you're right, it doesn't give you those strict guidelines. And when you are applying for funding schemes, there are so many tick boxes and loops that you have to go through to then get it. So that's a really good point that you made.
Yeah. No, the truth is I never really tried to apply for funding because I didn't know where to look. I probably wasn't going to be very good at filling out those forms and stuff. And so, I kind of regret maybe. That's probably a skill. I know from speaking to other people, it's actually quite a skill. It's like you go to specific people to kind of raise money for projects, and it's certainly not a skill that I had. So it wasn't a skill in my arsenal. So my skill was making some money, having an idea that I thought was interesting, and just going off and doing it, maybe persuading a couple of people to come with me.
Yeah. So for any future projects, is it something that you would look into now that you've done a lot of self-funding? Are you more open to funding schemes, or is it still like a barrier that you're like, oh, maybe not for me?
Sure. I think I would try and go down the funding route. I'd get a producer on board early in the process and try and go through it that way. But at the same time, I'm currently trying to find distribution for Buddy Goes to Nollywood. So there's a couple of big questions there. Will I get distribution that will actually make some money? If it does make some money, then I'll have a bit of money to make another film, but also I will have found a successful route to distribute. So I might be more likely.
One thing I would say that you're quite lucky about with the target audience for Buddy Goes to Nollywood is that Nollywood is such a huge marketplace that you have got however many millions of people who are so interested in that area wanting to watch that film. If there's a way for you to get those email addresses, be creative about finding ways to get evidence to show investors that this is who my audience is, you're more likely to get someone who is happy to take that on board or invest in a film if you would like to shoot again within that target audience?
Yeah, no, for sure. Yeah, I think Nollywood is a weird niche in England, but it's also an enormous niche globally. And to definitely, because I mean, I certainly from being out there and seeing the people working there, the filmmakers working there, there's definitely, I'm really confident that there's a lot more talent coming out of Nigeria and Ghana and other African countries that make films. The barrier is money, and that barrier is slowly dropping. The price of making films is coming down, but also there's more wealth in Africa as well. So I think it's a growing industry. So it's kind of watch this space, and I think being a part of that is quite exciting.
Do you think technology has something to say about this as well?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, the director that we worked with most in the film that we just we happened to meet on the red carpet. I won't give away too much of the plot, but we made a film with. He had a couple of red cameras sort of lying around his house.
Oh wow! Yeah.
They're expensive cameras, but you could have cheaper cameras and make a decent movie. So yeah, for sure, the cost of production coming down is a major thing, and the quality going up and up and up. So yeah.
Okay, cool. Would you say that Buddy Goes to Nollywood is the biggest accomplishment that you've had as a filmmaker to date, or is there any other achievements that you are really proud of?
Yeah, I think it is, but it's still early in the journey. The Liftoff Festival in Manchester, that was the first time I'd seen it in front of an audience. It's the first time I'd had audience feedback, and that was really helpful for a number of reasons and really interesting. I was kind of, before that, I was sort of open to the idea that I could change the film still, kind of re-edit or whatever, depending on the feedback. But I think the feedback was pretty positive, and well, it was positive, and so I'm kind of moving on to the next stage, which is, all right, well, what I've got I think is entertaining, and I think it's good for a number of reasons, and let's try and find distribution.
Yeah.
So that's the aim now.
Cool. So apart from finances and funding and finding distribution, is there any other
barriers
or obstacles that have really plagued you as a filmmaker?
No, I mean, I think, yeah, just I tend to choose projects where I'm away. I kind of, get on a plane, fly somewhere.
It's one of the bonuses of being a filmmaker. You get, especially documentary filmmaker, you get to travel so much.
Yeah, you get to travel, but also there's a limited time frame for you to make a thing. If I was making one, I live in London. If I was making one in London, and you're sort of shooting one day this month, one day, 2 days the next, over a long period of time, it kind of seems like a bit of a nightmare to me, and I might sort of lose motivation to do that. So it's more of let's go and have an adventure and make a film, and then at the end of it, you've got these rushes in your hand, which are so valuable, and then you get back and you edit it, and that's kind of part of the joy for me. So I think finding a story that you can tell in a short space of time that maybe involves some travel is kind of a challenge.
But also a joy of the world.
Joy. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Cool. Do you have any pearls of wisdom that you can share with the network, maybe for aspiring filmmakers who want to get into documentary filmmaking? Sure. Anything that you've learned along the way which you think is invaluable?
Yeah, I think for me in my career would be, there were a lot of jobs in production. Like on a commercial set, there's so many jobs that you could get that you would never think about getting when you start out. Like playback, video playback. It is such an amazing job. You get to sit on set and watch everything being shot, all of the actors acting, the directors directing, all the rushes, coming through your screen. But no one starts out wanting to be a VT or whatever it's called. But it's good money, and you get exposure to the industry. So I think that the number one is getting a job in the industry where you can sustain yourself. You can see what people are doing and how people are making films, but obviously not get stuck into that. Not get stuck doing it, but learn on the job, I think, is probably the best way. And then obviously saving up money and going off and doing your own thing. I think also I never studied, but I think study is an important part of filmmaking, whether you do that yourself or you go to college or something. But I think having a frame, if you went to college and studied film, then and went off and did more practical work, I think you'd have a framework to kind of fit those experiences into, which is something I probably, well, I would have loved to have done, but didn't.
It's interesting. It's a topic we often talk about, film school versus people who just go out there and make films. Yeah. And for some people, the structure of film school is what they need. But for others, they have a vision and they can fulfill it. Yeah. But it is a very controversial conversation, really.
Yeah, it's horses for courses. I think undoubtedly it can help, but maybe it puts you in a mindset and a niche where that isn't helpful. But I would think certainly now, if I studied all of the information, like cinematography, for example, all of the information about the technical stuff, I would find absolutely fascinating. I would love it. So maybe going back to university or waiting a little bit until you really know what you want to do, and then going off to study that would be ideal. But something like if you're a camera assistant, it's not a very glamorous job, but you get to learn about all the lenses, you get to learn about how to frame a good shot and lighting, and it's amazing being around all that stuff. So I think just get a job somewhere in the industry, and start from there, and then you build up clients and friends
and skills.
And skills. I think there's a couple of other things is don't do it alone. If you can avoid working alone all the time, avoid it, because there's no. It may seem heroic to kind of go, I produced this film, I directed this film, I shot this film, I edited this film, but actually collaborations are inevitably better. Shooting on your own, and it's boring, and you get lonely on your own. Find someone you can partner up with to make films unpaid, but also do paid work with. And then I think you get opportunities constantly, but you've got to be ready for them. So you've got to be good before you can take an opportunity, unless you're a real blagger. And
I think it helps if you can talk the talk, doesn't it?
It does.
Then you get in so many doors.
Yeah. I'm probably more cautious. I like to, if I've got a client who asks me to do something, I like to overachieve for them rather than sort of overpromise. So I'm probably a bit more conservative in that sense.
It's a good work ethic to have. I mean, there's nothing worse than saying you can do something and then you can't fulfill it. So being able to over-deliver is a really good quality, I think.
Yeah, for sure.
Okay, cool. Is there anything else you'd like to discuss? What's been your proudest moment in your career? I know we talked about Buddy Goes to Nollywood, but is there anything else?
I think out of all the jobs I've done, and probably sort of links back to Buddy Goes to Nollywood, I suppose. Well, I think the proudest moment of my career was deciding to go make a film in America. I didn't know what I was doing, had absolutely no clue, but it started my career, and it was a pretty bold move to just kind of go from someone who didn't know anything about film to buying a camera, saving up money, doing a job I didn't like at all, buying a camera, persuading a friend to come with me, and going off to the States, driving across America for a couple of weeks. I think I'm proudest of making that decision to do that. I think in terms of the work that I've done in my life, the charity work in Africa. It's not. I mean, I wasn't doing it for charity myself, but it certainly wasn't well paid. But I think being in incredibly challenging environments, making films that hopefully will do some good. Been some of the best experiences I've had.
Yeah, great. No, that's nice.
Daunting and slightly sort of scarring at the same time, but
at least you're getting fulfilled from what you're doing, which is always a really good positive.
For sure.
Cool. What are you currently working on?
I am currently about to go on tour in America with a musician called Imogen Heap, and it's a film. I'm doing vlogs for her as well, but basically hopefully going to make a feature documentary about her trying to change the music industry to make it a sort of fairer place for musicians to thrive in. So we'll see where that goes. So that's a bit more of a longer term project.
Yeah, how long is that shoot?
Well, we did the European tour, which was like 3 months. So I've got like 3 months of material from that. The US tour is another couple of months, and hopefully there'll be some sort of conclusion I can draw from the film shortly after that. And I think that would be hopefully an easy one to get money for post-production. Because one thing I've learned is that editing on your own is not fun, and working with a good editor is just, it's priceless, especially with a feature film.
If you've shot it, you can also get very attached to the things that you have shot, especially if you've spent a lot of money and time on it. When an editor can be like, this isn't helping the story, then they will just get rid of it straight away. So it is good to work with someone.
Yeah. Sorry. And also people get very good at one or two things. I've been a generalist my whole life in my career, because that's just how I've had to make money. So I've shot and edited mostly myself for my commercial projects. And that's worked out very well. Certainly from a financial perspective, it kind of feels essential. But when I've got too much work on and I use a really good editor, then the difference is really obvious. And it's like, oh, shit, I should have used that guy more or that girl more. And working with skilled, talented people, I think that's the most important thing.
Okay, great. And on that note, I think it's a good place to end.
Cool.
Do you have anything else you want to plug or talk about whilst you're here?
No, I mean, just, in terms of Buddy Goes to Nollywood, I just, if anyone has any thoughts about how to get it in front of a Nigerian audience and find a distributor, then that's definitely what I'm looking for.
So let's ask the network. Does anyone know anyone within the Nigerian filmmaking industry who would like to pick up Buddy Goes to Nollywood? Who knows? There might be someone on there who has that exact contact.
Yeah, cool. Okay.
Cool. All right. Well, Michael, thank you so much for your time. Enjoy the rest of your week. And thank you so much.
It's a pleasure. Thanks, Natalie.
Thanks.